All right, we're going to take a single character from the user and convert it from hexadecimal to decimal. Now, I have already started the class here, calling this hexadecimal to decimal, and I am going to need to have a string for the user input, and I'm going to have an integer for the output. And what we're going to do is get user input, verifying it is one character. So we'll ask the user to enter a single hexadecimal digit. And then we will use our scanner object. So I guess I need a scanner up here. Our classic input. And system.in. And we'll make the user input equal input.next line. We're going to take an entire line. And now we'll do our verification. We'll make sure that the user is inputting one character only. So we'll go if user.userInput.length. And we're going to say does not equal, so we'll use the not equal to 1. So we're going to deal with the error first. And your book introduces a nice feature here and a system call. We can control when Java exits running. We've been doing that by letting the program reach the bottom. When a program runs without generating an error message, it reports back to whatever opened it that I've exited, and it gives a return value of 0. There were no errors. But we're going to say this is an error, so we're going to print to the screen, you need to enter one character only. And then we're going to call the system and we're going to tell it to exit. But we're going to say, hey, there was an error. And so the system.exit will tell our program to exit. And it will note to the calling program that there was an error. Now we can send error messages that can be printed or stored to log files. So there's different ways these exit commands communicate with the other programs that called our program to run. But now we know we have a single character. And so what we have to do now is process the character. And what we're going to do here is we're going to look at a trick in Java with the numerical values that we can get from characters to process the digits A through F into a decimal or an integer value. So just to verify, what we notice here is if I look at the uppercase letters, A through F represent 10, 11, 12. Well, A is the 65th value. So if I subtract A from my characters, that'll put me to 0. I can add 10 to get back these values because characters fall numerically in alphabetical order. So we're going to do a little trick here using the decimal value that's hiding behind the ASCII to do our conversion. So let's code that trick here. So first, when we come over here, we'll check to see if we have A to F for our digit. So if, and we want to get the character. Well, I guess we have to convert our string to a character. So let's do that here. We'll do char digit equals string to character, and we're going to use the trick that we have been using. Where we're going to get the character out of the string by grabbing the stuff at index 0, that trick I've been using on the input before to turn a string into an individual digit. But I'm also going to want this to be uppercase. So we're taking our user input and we're going to get the character at index 0. Oops, I don't want output, I want index 0. So I've taken the input from the user, I've made sure it was 1 character long, and I'm now making a character memory location, and I'm taking that 1 character from the string and I'm making it an individual character. Now I can check to see if my digit is greater than or equal to capital A, since I made it all lowercase, and less than or equal to capital F, since the hexadecimal digits are A through F for 10 through 15. So if that's the case, then I can make my output, which I hope, did I leave, was an integer. Well, that's going to be the value of my ASCII character cast to an integer. Remember, Java and other computer languages will cast this to an integer by default. And I'm going to subtract from it the value of A, or 65. So if it's A, it'll make it 0. And so I'll add 10 to it. And so that's the little numerical thing I'm playing with here. Else, if, and now I want to see is character is digit. So I want to see is it a number? And so now output equals, well, I've got 2 options here. I can use the built-in casting in Java to parse this to a number, or I can go back to my table and just do a little processing here. So let's go back to our table. And let's notice that 48 is 0. So if I subtract the 0 character from character, then 0 will be 0, 1 will be 1, 2 will be 2, and so on. So let's use that same trick we just did for assigning a value to A through F and use it for assigning a value to 0 through 9. So digit minus the character for digit. But we could have had that the user didn't enter a digit or A through F. And so system.out.println, please enter a valid hexadecimal digit. And we're going to do the same thing with the system.exit. Now, all I have to do now is print the output value. So system.out.println, or printf, and we'll say that the string, the hexadecimal digit %s is equal to %d. So I'm holding a marker for a string to go in and a marker for a digit to go in. And so the string we have is digit and the integer we have is output. And let's see here. And did I call it output, 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 output? I declared integer output. I have assigned. It's warning me that output may not have been assigned. Am I still within my if statements? Let's look here. May not have been initiated. I've initiated it here. I've given it values here. So we should be good. Let's check this warning. Let's run this, and I might need to do a little logic here to make it work, but let's try it. Proceed. Unresolved computation problem. So the local variable may not have been initialized. This happens if I don't have my framing right. So let's see here. I initialize integer output here. So let's give it a value of 0 and see if that overrides this. All right, so we'll try first with 0. 0 is 0, that works. 1, that works. So let's try our A through F's. A is 10, F should be 15, good. So we're getting good. Now let's try entering Sam is in university. I need to enter one character only, so I get an error message and it exits. That's good. And let's try just entering an S. It's not valid hexadecimal. Let's try lowercase a. And it converted it. So we have a good conversion going on. Notice Java had a problem that because within these places here I assign value to output, there's a chance I could fall through these else statements without output having a value. And so what Java did was gave me a compilation warning. When you get this, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can override it with some compiler commands, or you can make sure that the initialization of things that might get assigned in lower levels, and lower levels will be inside of braces, has an initial value set up somewhere. So we kind of call these global variables, that they work for all of the main method, and they can be assigned in smaller levels, which are the braces are. But because there are some areas, this else statement here, where there is no assignment of output, Java's going to stop saying, hey, output might not have a value, and it'll give a compilation error. Again, there are ways in the compiler to override it, but easier code is to assign a value to it so that there is some value. And so we've made a hexadecimal digit conversion.